right, how y'all guys doing? So, uh, the women's tag team championships of WWE have become under fire lately. I think this comes out of an episode of Backstage, which I don't watch, where Paige kind of says something about the women's tag team titles and about pushing people other than the horsewomen. And I decided just to riff a little bit about the women's tag team championships in WWE, what I think are the strengths of it and what I think the weaknesses are. A lot of people think that we should just get rid of the women's tag team titles. I'm saying, well, there's too many women on the roster. And if you got rid of all the women's tag team belts, you really wouldn't have anything for them to do. But so I disagree with the concept of getting rid of the women's tag team titles, but I think that they're very necessary. So, uh, so I got 5 points here that I wrote down. Just general thoughts. I'm not gonna go into. Hopefully, I won't go into too much detail. I really don't plan these videos out too much, but I have 5 different things that I want to talk about. So number one is that the tag team titles so far have only been held by prominent women. Bayley, Sasha Banks, Asuka, Alexa Bliss. They have a lot of single success, and essentially they just because they can't always be chasing the singles title, they pushed them over to the tag team division. Now, there's a storyline reason why Bayley and Sasha Banks are the tag team champions right now. They're probably going to break up while they're in the champions, but which is the storyline that Eddie and Rey Mysterio did. I saw this on Twitter, but I also kind of realized it in my head that Sasha Banks is in love with Eddie Guerrero, so it makes sense. But these are interesting pairings. You know, the Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross. She was able to elevate Nikki Cross. Nikki Cross, I'm pretty sure, would not be on the roster right now if she had not, gelled chemistry-wise with Alexa Bliss. The Kabuki Warriors are another one. I love the Kabuki Warriors, Kyra Zane and Asuka. The Boston Hug Connection, I guess that's what they call themselves still. But Bayley and Sasha Banks, even though I think that winning the tag team titles and pushing for the creation of the tag team titles is one of the big legacies of Bayley and Sasha Banks. But what the biggest problem of the tag team division is actually my point two. My point two is the division is hampered by a lack of teams. So you often have the titles go on for a long time undefended. Remember the Iconics when they won the tag team titles, then they just basically disappeared. The Iconics, a lot of people on the internet thought that the Iconics should have been the first tag team champions because they were a real tag team. As far as their gimmicks were actual, being an actual team. And a lot of people thought that, well, they naturally should have been the first tag team champions, but they gave Bayley and Sasha Banks the titles first, and then they gave the Iconics the titles later. And of course, this led to the infamous rolling around on the ground, crying thing that Ryan Satin reported that Bayley and Sasha Banks are still talking about a year and a half later or whatever. But it's a routine thing where the tag team titles, the women's tag team titles will have spurts of being defended often, and then it will go dormant for a while. Like the Kabuki Warriors. The Kabuki Warriors are tag team champions literally forever. But they really, if you sit back and think how many times they really defend them, I can think of twice. They defended them against Team Kick, which was Dakota Kai and Tegan Nox on NXT. And they defended them against Charlotte and Becky Lynch at TLC. And I remember that because Kyra Zane got a concussion in that match. But when you have these matches that are, you don't have enough teams for them to work with, then what's the purpose of the tag team division? You have to create teams, right? This leads into my point 3, which is you have horsewoman overload. Now recently you have Charlotte on all 3 brands. Now you have Bayley and Sasha Banks going to be on all 3 brands. The titles are almost always tied up with some horsewoman, either it's Bayley or it's Becky or it's Charlotte or it's Sasha Banks. There's no room for anyone else. And that is really hampering the tag team division because you do have people who might have partners, but even if they're not ready for prime time, it's another tag team for people to wrestle. For a long time, there was Vanessa Bourne and Aaliyah. They were a team in NXT. You currently have Casey Catanzaro and Kaden Carter in NXT, who are also a tag team. I'm using NXT for a reason. But you also had opportunities for other women to create teams, like Carmella and Dana Brooke, Sonya Deville and Mandy Rose. You had teams, but you broke them up for no fucking reason, or you just gave up on the team for no fucking reason. It's like, why have Carmella on the roster? If she's not wrestling for anything, why is she there? And so far, she hasn't been on TV in a while. But It's the same thing with Dana Brooke. It's like, why is Naomi not doing anything? Why is Bianca Belair not doing anything? Why do we have, Ruby Riott and Liv Morgan and all these people? Like, what are they doing? They're not doing anything. Why aren't they trying to form teams and, feuding with each other first before they get to the tag team titles? That's how you create a division. That's what you create with the division. Everybody can't be a single star. And if you're going to have the horsewoman overload, where every title is on the horsewoman and it can't never be beaten, then you're going to have stagnation in your women's division, which is part of the problem. WWE's NXT division is a little bit more parity, where there's a lot of quality talent at the top, and then there's this big talent hump, and then there's everyone else below them. But the reason I use NXT is because they have been largely left out of the NXT of the women's tag team titles. NXT got one tag team title match. Well, they have another one on the June 17th episode of NXT. Shotzi Blackheart and Tegan Nox, who are, I guess they're a team now. When did they become a team? I know they teamed with each other, but that was a 6-woman team with Mia Yim at the In Your House show. But I guess Tegan Nox and Shotzi Blackheart are getting a title shot. Okay, why not Raquel Gonzalez and Dakota Kai? They're an actual pairing. They've been together for a while. There was some teasing about Chelsea Green and I think Santana Garrett, and that went nowhere. Or you had some Chelsea Green and Aaliyah could have been a team, because I think Vanessa Bourne's injured or something like that. You could have done that. Nothing. There's just, you have Xia Li's on that roster, who I like. She has absolutely nothing going on. Now she's in the crowd clapping and booing and that type of stuff. Casey Catanzaro is another one, not doing anything. You can use these women, they're all in fucking Florida right now. It's not like we're talking about jet setting, doing the Florida loop and then flying to Boston and then flying to buttfuck South Dakota, and that's maybe too much movement. Everybody's in Florida now. You can really have a good women's tag team division, because, hey, the Performance Center is not far from Full Sail. Come on, man. You could really do that if you wanted. But that was my fifth and final conversation, is that there is a need for teams. There's a dearth of teams. There's a lot of talent, and people say, well, the NXT roster is so talented. It's like, well, the rest of the roster is talented too, just maybe in different ways. Like, a lot of people hate Alexa Bliss. I think Alexa Bliss is great, because she's not a graps girl, okay? She's not going to go out there and wrestle you to death. What she will do, though, is play a very good, convincing character. She can talk. She can gain interest. She's a lightning rod. There's a reason why she's successful. It's not just because she's small and blonde. She's actually really good, not at the wrestling part of wrestling, but at the personality part of wrestling. And I've been trying to tell people for a long time now, that's really the most important part now, is wrestling is on TV, okay? So you have to put interesting people on TV, and you do interesting things with people, and you never know what might happen. And the Alexa Bliss, Nikki Cross thing is number one. Alexa Bliss makes whatever you give her work, but can she wrestle? Can she, again, is she going to grapple you to death? No, but she can make herself visible. She's bigger in personality than she is in size. And there's other people who are also that way. Kyra Zane is another one. Kyra Zane, what is she going to do now? Well, other than get her head split open, what is she going to do now that, Asuka is back to being a solo wrestler? Eventually, I guess they're going to have to feud, which I'm fine with that. But I would have liked for, other people to get an opportunity to be the personality that like the Kabuki Warriors opened up a different personality for Kyra Zane. Even though she hadn't really established her previous persona on SmackDown, she was brought up for the purposes of becoming a tag team wrestler, it seems, because she's so small. But I like the idea of a women's tag team division. You just have to use it. Yes, a lot of these women are really small. Casey Catanzaro is small. Selena Vega is small. Alexa Bliss is small. Yes, but you can put them with other women and let their personality show, because Selena Vega has a lot of personality. If she wanted to wrestle, she could. If you're worried about her being injured, put her with somebody who's bigger. Okay, it's that simple. Put her with a workhorse. If you got a workhorse female like Ruby Riott, who you don't really want to push as a singles wrestler, use her as a tag team wrestler. You know, have her be a mentor to someone else. Like I like the idea of the Ruby Riott, Shotzi Blackheart team. Like if you was to, you could do a storyline with that. You know, again, they're all in fucking Florida. All right, so it doesn't really make that much of a difference. You could just have, you could, if you don't want Ruby Riott to appear on NXT, you could still have other ways of doing it. Where, you know, she could have called her up and said, hey, this is my buddy. And then you could tie that into, you know, Liv Morgan saying, hey, there is no Riott Squad without me. And then, of course, Sarah Logan has been fired. But you can keep that storyline going as like, you're trying to replace me and, you know, blah, 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 or whatever the case may be. But that would require you pushing somebody other than Charlotte, Bayley, or Sasha Banks. And Sasha Banks has taken a huge step back in order for Bayley to step forward. And I was going to make its own video, but I might as well talk about it now. I am warming up to Bayley. She's actually showing me a lot of personality now. So, you know, it's beginning to work on me. You know, her, it's so heavy. I got so much gold rant on SmackDown when she won the tag team titles back. I thought that was great. You know, and I think that she's actually finding something with this character now, that she's not just stale-faced Karen, where she's actually coming across as being a viable, interesting, hateable personality. And I actually find it quite interesting now. But the women's tag team titles need to be doing something. And I agree with Paige and, you know, whoever else is criticizing the women's tag team division, because the division could be so much more than it really is. But that will require you actually pushing people, even if they're not ready. They're in a tag team. That's the point. It's, you know, you could get two people ready at the same time. You know, you can put them in there, and the matches don't have to be 30 minutes. They don't have to be 12 minutes. They could be 7. They could be 6. You know, why hire people and keep them on the roster if you can't trust them for 6 minutes? It's like, why have them at all at that point? But what do you guys think? Do you guys think that the WWE tag team division, the women's tag team division, the men's tag team division is a whole another bowl of oats? You know, a lot of people are complaining about the Street Profits and the Viking Raiders, but I'll do that video probably if there's a match at Backlash. I'll probably talk about it then. But, you know, the women's tag team titles have been a topic of conversation. I just kind of want to throw my little 2 cents in there. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Thank you for listening, and I'll talk to you guys later.